The emergency beacon pierced through the void of space with desperate urgency, its signal bouncing from relay station to relay station across the Galactic Federation's communication network. Admiral Zeftar of the Crystalline Hegemony clutched the translation device with trembling appendages as the message played for the 7th time in the command center. This is Colony Ship Serenity's Rest, carrying 40,000 civilians from the Peaceful Meadows system. We are under attack by Vorthak raiders. Our defensive systems have failed. We have 3 days of life support remaining. Any Federation vessel in range, please respond. We cannot fight them. We are not warriors. Please help us. The message ended with static, followed by coordinates that placed the colony ship in the contested Outer Rim territories, far from any major Federation naval presence. Zeftar's crystalline form flickered with anxiety patterns as he turned to his tactical officer. "What Federation assets do we have in that sector?" he asked, already knowing the answer would disappoint him. Lieutenant Kevra consulted her displays, her insectoid features twitching with concern. "The nearest patrol squadron is 18 days away at maximum burn, sir. Even our fastest courier ships couldn't reach them in time. What about mercenary forces, independent contractors?" "None with sufficient firepower to engage a Vorthak raiding fleet, Admiral. The colony ship reports at least 12 heavy cruisers and multiple fighter wings." Zeftar's light dimmed. The Vorthak were notorious pirates who showed no mercy to civilians. They would strip the colony ship of anything valuable, sell the survivors into slavery, and leave the rest to die in the cold vacuum of space. It was a fate that had befallen dozens of civilian vessels over the past year, and the Federation's forces were spread too thin to prevent it. "There must be something," Zeftar muttered, scanning the tactical display. "Some force within range that could help." Kevra hesitated before speaking. "Sir, there is one possibility, but you're not going to like it." "What is it, Lieutenant?" "There's a recently contacted species in that general area. They call themselves humans. They're from a world designated as a Class 12 death world." The command center fell silent. Even the background hum of the ship's systems seemed to quiet as every officer turned to stare at Kevra. Class 12. Death worlds were places where no civilized being should be able to survive, let alone evolve into a spacefaring species. "Humans?" Zeftar's voice carried disbelief. "The primitives from that toxic wasteland? What kind of help could they possibly provide?" "They've just been granted preliminary Federation membership, sir. Their embassy ship is only 6 hours from the colony ship's position. They could reach the civilians before the Vorthak break through their remaining defenses." "Lieutenant, that's a Class 12 Death World species we're talking about. They probably don't even have proper weapons. What could they do against Vorthak raiders?" Kevra pulled up the human's recent contact file. "Their preliminary assessment shows they have some kind of military structure, sir. They've been engaged in conflicts on their homeworld for millennia. The cultural attaché noted they have an unusual relationship with violence." "Unusual how?" "They seem to have elevated warfare to an art form, sir. Multiple competing nations. Constant technological advancement driven by military needs. Their planet is so hostile that they've had to become extremely adaptive just to survive." Admiral Zeftar felt his crystalline structure pulse with uncertainty. In the Federation's 3,000 years of existence, they had encountered exactly 7 species from Class 12 death worlds. 5 had been too primitive to achieve spaceflight before destroying themselves. 1 had been so aggressive they'd had to be quarantined to their home system. The 7th had simply vanished one day, leaving behind empty worlds and no explanation. And now they wanted him to ask the 8th such species for help? "Sir," Kevra pressed gently, "we have nothing else. The colony ship has children aboard. The Vorthak won't care." Zeftar closed his optical sensors and made the decision that would change everything. Open a channel to the human embassy ship. Emergency protocol. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a metal box. The lighting was harsh and white, nothing like the soft, filtered illumination preferred by most civilized species. And then a human appeared on screen. Zeftar had seen images of humans before, but seeing one in real time was still unsettling. The creature was covered in some kind of fabric, with exposed flesh visible only at the head and hands. The face was a disturbing arrangement of eyes, a protrusion for breathing, and a horizontal slash that presumably served as a mouth. Most disturbing of all, the human appeared to have no natural armor, no protective shell, no scales or chitinous covering. It looked like it would die if someone simply poked it too hard. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the UES Harmony," the human said, its voice somehow conveying both authority and friendliness. "We received your emergency broadcast, Admiral. What can we do to help?" Zeftar struggled to find the right words. How did one explain to primitives that they were asking for military assistance against one of the galaxy's most feared pirate fleets? "Captain Martinez, we have a situation. A colony ship carrying 40,000 civilians is under attack by Vorthak raiders. You are the closest vessel to their position. However, I must stress that this is an extremely dangerous situation. The Vorthak fleet consists of 12 heavy cruisers and multiple fighter wings. I would not normally ask civilians to—" "Admiral," Captain Martinez interrupted, and Zeftar was surprised by the sudden hardness in her voice. "Did you say Vorthak raiders attacking civilians?" "Yes, Captain. But please understand, I'm not asking you to engage them directly. Perhaps you could evacuate some of the civilians before the pirates break through their defenses." There was a pause during which the human's facial expression changed in ways Zeftar couldn't interpret. When she spoke again, her voice carried a quality that made the Admiral's crystalline structure vibrate with unease. "Admiral, transmit those coordinates to us immediately, and patch us through to the colony ship so we can coordinate with them directly." "Captain, I appreciate your willingness to help, but you need to understand what you're facing. The Vorthak have been terrorizing this sector for decades. They have advanced weaponry and battle-tested crews. Your ship appears to be designed for diplomatic missions, not combat." The human's mouth curved upward in what the cultural briefings had identified as a smile, though this particular expression looked nothing like the peaceful gesture described in the files. "Admiral," Captain Martinez said, "let me clarify something for you. This isn't a diplomatic vessel. The UES Harmony is what we call a heavy cruiser. And Admiral, we don't negotiate with pirates." Before Zeftar could respond, the human continued speaking, apparently addressing someone off-screen. "Commander Rodriguez, plot and intercept course for those coordinates, best possible speed, and send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have Vorthak raiders hitting civilians and we're moving to engage." "Captain Martinez," Zeftar said urgently, "you cannot seriously be considering engaging an entire Vorthak fleet with a single ship." The human looked back at him, and for a moment, Zeftar caught a glimpse of something in those small, forward-facing eyes that made him understand why humans had survived on a Class 12 death world. "Admiral, there are children on that colony ship. On my world, we have a saying: the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We may be new to your Federation, but we're not new to fighting. But the odds—" "Let me worry about the odds. Just get us in touch with the colony ship so we can coordinate the rescue. And, Admiral, you might want to scramble whatever fleet assets you can toward that position. There's going to be cleanup work to do." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zeftar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew exchanged worried glances. Lieutenant Kevra was the first to speak. "Sir, should we warn them about what they're flying into?" Zeftar considered this. The humans had no idea what Vorthak raiders were capable of. They were about to sacrifice themselves in a futile gesture, and 40,000 civilians would die anyway when the pirates finished with the colony ship. "Open a channel to the Serenity's Rest," he ordered. "At least we can tell them help is coming, even if—" He didn't finish the sentence. Even if that help would arrive only in time to become additional victims. As the colony ship's captain appeared on screen, a tall, elegant member of the Zilani species with fear etched across her avian features, Zeftar struggled to find words that might provide comfort without offering false hope. "Captain Velana," he said gently, "we've made contact with a vessel in your area. They're moving to assist you." "Thank the ancestors," Captain Velana breathed. "What kind of ship? How long before they arrive?" Zeftar hesitated. "They'll reach you in approximately 6 hours. Captain, the approaching vessel is from a newly contacted species called humans. They've volunteered to help despite being significantly outgunned." Captain Velana's crest feathers flattened against her skull. "One ship against the entire Vorthak fleet? Admiral, with respect, that's suicide. We can't ask anyone to sacrifice themselves for us." "The humans insisted, Captain. Their ship is designated UES Harmony. They've requested direct communication with you to coordinate rescue efforts." Before Captain Velana could respond, her tactical officer called out from behind her. "Captain, the Vorthak are moving. They're beginning their final approach." On the screen, Zeftar could see the panic spreading through the colony ship's bridge. Alarms were sounding, and through the viewports, the distinctive angular silhouettes of Vorthak cruisers could be seen approaching. "They're hailing us," the tactical officer reported. "Put them through," Captain Velana said, her voice resigned. The screen split to show the fearsome visage of a Vorthak captain. The reptilian being's scarred face twisted into what passed for a smile among his species, revealing rows of sharpened teeth. "Civilian vessel," the Vorthak captain hissed. "You will prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in the immediate execution of 100 civilians. Compliance will result in the immediate execution of 50 civilians. You have 1 hour to decide which option you prefer." The transmission cut, leaving the colony ship's bridge in stunned silence. Captain Velana looked back at Admiral Zeftar with tears streaming down her avian face. "Admiral, please tell the humans not to come. We won't let them die for us. We'll try to buy them time to escape." Zeftar was about to respond when another voice cut through the comm channel. It was Captain Martinez. "This is the UES Harmony to colony ship Serenity's Rest. We've been monitoring your communications. Captain Velana, we're currently 4 hours out from your position. Can you hold out that long?" "Captain Martinez," Captain Velana said urgently, "you need to stay away. The Vorthak captain just gave us an ultimatum. They're going to kill civilians regardless of what we do. Don't sacrifice your ship for nothing." There was a pause before the human captain responded, and when she did, her voice carried a tone that seemed to lower the temperature in both ships' bridges. "Captain Velana, I need you to listen to me very carefully. We are not going to sacrifice our ship. We are going to destroy every single Vorthak vessel in that fleet, but we need your help to make sure we don't accidentally hit you in the crossfire." Admiral Zeftar felt his crystalline structure pulse with disbelief. "Captain Martinez, you cannot be serious. 12 heavy cruisers against 1 ship, even if yours is military grade." "Admiral," Captain Martinez interrupted, "let me explain something about humans. We've been fighting each other for so long that we've gotten very, very good at it. And there's one thing we absolutely will not tolerate: bullies who threaten children." As if summoned by her words, another voice came through the comm, apparently from the human ship's tactical station. "Captain, we've got the Vorthak fleet on long-range sensors. 12 cruisers, 43 fighters, and Admiral? They're not using any formation we recognize as defensive. They're spread out like they're not expecting any resistance." Captain Martinez's voice when she responded carried what could only be described as predatory satisfaction. "Commander, begin target designation, and send a message to the Vorthak fleet." "What message, Captain?" "Tell them that the humans are here, and they have exactly 5 minutes to withdraw from this system before we send them to whatever hell their species believes in." Admiral Zeftar watched in fascination and horror as the small human vessel adjusted course, accelerating directly toward a fleet that outgunned it by more than 10 to 1. In 3,000 years of Federation history, he had never seen anything quite like it. A single ship, crewed by beings from a world so hostile that it had been classified as uninhabitable, charging headlong into certain death to save strangers they had never met. Perhaps, Zeftar thought, there was more to these humans than anyone had realized. Captain Drakmor of the Vorthak fleet had been raiding civilian vessels for nearly 2 decades. He had perfected the art of extracting maximum profit from minimum effort, and the approaching colony ship promised to be his most lucrative prize yet. 40,000 civilians meant thousands of potential slaves, and Zilani were particularly prized in the outer rim markets for their delicate features and peaceful nature. The last thing he expected was to receive a threatening message from an unknown species. "Captain," his communications officer hissed, "we're receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel. They claim to be humans?" Drakmor's scaled lips pulled back in amusement. He had never heard of humans, which meant they were either primitives or a minor species not worth his attention. Either way, a single ship posed no threat to his fleet. "Put them through," he ordered. "Let's hear what these fools have to say." The main screen flickered to reveal the interior of what appeared to be a military vessel. The lighting was harsh and utilitarian, and the being that appeared on screen was unlike anything in Drakmor's extensive database of known species. The creature was bipedal, covered partially in some kind of artificial skin, with exposed flesh visible at the extremities and head. Most disturbing was the complete lack of natural armor or defensive features. It looked like something that belonged in a laboratory, not on a warship. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the United Earthship Harmony," the creature said. "You are in violation of Federation civilian protection protocols. You have 5 minutes to withdraw from this system before we engage." Drakmor's entire bridge crew erupted in hissing laughter. The communications officer had to shut down the audio feed temporarily to prevent their amusement from being transmitted back to the humans. "Did you hear that, Captain?" his tactical officer wheezed. One ship is threatening our entire fleet." Drakmor wiped tears of mirth from his eyes. "Humans, you said? Never heard of them. They must be some backwater species with more courage than sense." He gestured for the communications officer to reopen the channel. "Unknown vessel," Drakmor said, making no effort to hide his amusement. "I am Captain Drakmor of the Vorthak Crimson Fleet. You appear to be suffering from some kind of navigational error. This system is under Vorthak control. Withdraw immediately, or we will add your ship to our collection." The human's facial expression didn't change, but something in those small forward-facing eyes made Drakmor's amusement falter slightly. "Captain Drakmor," the human said, "your 5 minutes just became 4. I suggest you use them wisely." The transmission ended, leaving Drakmor staring at a blank screen. His tactical officer was already scanning the approaching vessel. "Captain, the alien ship is still closing on our position. Range, 2 million kilometers and decreasing. Their drive signature is unusual." "Unusual how?" "It's not antimatter, sir. It's not fusion. I can't identify the propulsion type, but they're accelerating at rates that should tear apart most ship designs." Drakmor frowned. Unknown propulsion technology might indicate these humans were more advanced than they appeared. Still, 1 ship against 12 was mathematical impossibility. "What about their weapons signature?" That's just it, sir. I'm not detecting any standard energy weapon arrays. No plasma cannons, no particle beams, no torpedo tubes. Either they're using some kind of stealth technology or they're not armed for ship-to-ship combat, Drakmore finished. Probably a diplomatic vessel with delusions of grandeur. Ignore them until we finish with the colony ship. If they get too close, swat them down. 3 hours later, as the Vorthak fleet moved into final attack position around the colony ship Serenity's Rest, Drakmore had almost forgotten about the approaching human vessel. His boarding crews were preparing to breach the civilian ship's hull when his tactical officer called out urgently. "Captain, the human ship has just dropped out of whatever drive system they were using. They're 100,000 kilometers off our starboard flank." "Only 100,000? They're practically in our weapons range. Target them and—" "Sir," the tactical officer's voice cracked with disbelief. "They're launching something. Multiple launches." Drakmore spun to face the tactical display, expecting to see the familiar energy signatures of torpedoes or missiles. Instead, he saw dozens of small contacts accelerating away from the human ship at impossible velocities. "What are those?" he demanded. I don't know, sir. They're not showing up as any known weapon type. They're too small to be manned fighters, but they're maneuvering like guided missiles. But the acceleration rates? Show me the numbers." The tactical display updated, and Drakmore felt his blood chill. The incoming objects were pulling nearly 300 gravities of acceleration while executing precision course corrections that should have been impossible for any guidance system. "Time to impact?" 47 seconds on the nearest target, sir." "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Return fire on the human vessel." Across his fleet, 11 heavy cruisers began emergency acceleration, trying to dodge the incoming swarm of unknown weapons. Energy beams lanced out toward the human ship, but the small vessel was already moving, pulling acceleration that should have liquefied any crew inside. On the bridge of the UES Harmony, Captain Martinez watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Vorthak fleet was scattering exactly as her tactical AI had predicted. "Commander Rodriguez," she said calmly, "status on Kinetic Strike Package Alpha? 42 projectiles tracking nominal, Captain. Impact in 37 seconds. The Vorthak are trying to evade, but their ships are too large for effective maneuvering." "And the colony ship?" "Safe within the designated no-fire zone, Captain. Our trajectory calculations have them clear of all debris fields." Captain Martinez nodded. Kinetic kill vehicles were humanity's answer to the energy shield technology that dominated galactic warfare. While other species had focused on increasingly powerful energy weapons and correspondingly stronger defensive barriers, humans had taken a different approach. If you couldn't get through the shields, you simply hit them with something moving fast enough to ignore them entirely. The first impacts came exactly when the tactical computer predicted. Tungsten rods moving at 12% of light speed struck the nearest Vorthak cruiser amidships. The ship's energy shields flared brilliantly for exactly 0.003 seconds before the kinetic energy overwhelmed them completely. The rod continued through the ship's hull, reactor compartment, and out the other side, leaving a perfectly circular hole that vented atmosphere and plasma in equal measure. The cruiser broke apart in a spectacular explosion that lit up the surrounding space. "Direct hit on target Alpha 1, Rodriguez reported. "Moving to secondary targets." Drakmore watched in horror as 3 more of his ships died in quick succession. Each impact was preceded by a blinding flash as the kinetic projectiles overwhelmed energy shields that should have been able to stop anything. The weapons moved too fast for point defense, hit too hard for armor, and came from directions that made return fire nearly impossible. "All ships," he screamed into his communicator. "Concentrate fire on the human vessel. Kill it before it can launch more." Every surviving Vorthak ship turned toward the UES Harmony, pouring energy fire into the space around the human vessel. But the small ship seemed to dance between the incoming beams with impossible agility, never staying in one position long enough for the Vorthak gunners to establish a target lock. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the human ship. I think they're preparing to launch another wave." "How many ships do we have left?" "7, sir, but 2 are heavily damaged and 1 has lost primary power." Drakmor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than 5 minutes, this single human vessel had destroyed nearly half his fleet. 5 ships, gone, just like that. Ships that had survived dozens of battles against Federation forces, reduced to scrap metal by weapons he didn't even understand. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human captain." Drakmor was about to order the channel ignored when he reconsidered. Perhaps he could negotiate. Offer them a share of the plunder in exchange for safe passage. Pirates understood profit, even alien pirates. "Put them through." Captain Martinez appeared on screen again, and Drakmor was disturbed to notice that the human appeared completely calm despite being in the middle of a space battle. "Captain Drakmor," she said pleasantly, "I believe your 5 minutes are up. You now have 30 seconds to order your remaining ships to surrender before we finish what you started." "Surrender?" Drakmor sputtered. "You may have surprised us with your weapons, but you're still outnumbered. And when word of this attack reaches the Vorthak High Command—" "Captain," Martinez interrupted, "let me explain something about humans. We've been fighting wars since before we discovered fire. We've fought with sticks, stones, chemical explosives, nuclear weapons, and everything in between. We've fought on land, sea, air, space, and in dimensions your species probably hasn't discovered yet. Do you know what we learned from all that fighting?" Drakmor remained silent, transfixed by the human's matter-of-fact tone. "We learned that there's always someone bigger, stronger, and meaner than you are. So we got very good at killing things that outgunned us. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics. We've seen it all before, just with different paint jobs." "Impossible," Drakmor whispered. 20 seconds, Captain. Surrender, or join your friends in whatever afterlife Vorthaks believe in." Around the tactical display, Drakmor could see his remaining ships taking position for a final assault on the human vessel. 7 ships against 1. They still had the numerical advantage. They could still win this. "All ships, attack formation Theta," he ordered. "Concentrate all fire on—" He never finished the command. The second wave of kinetic projectiles had already been launched, following trajectories calculated while the Vorthaks were still organizing their attack formation. This time, the tungsten rods had been programmed for maximum psychological impact. Instead of clean holes through ship hulls, the projectiles struck engine compartments, weapon arrays, and command sections with surgical precision. Ships didn't explode, they simply stopped. Lights went out. Engines failed. Weapons powered down. In the span of 10 seconds, the entire remaining Vorthak fleet was rendered completely helpless. Drakmor found himself sitting in darkness, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows across his bridge. His tactical officer was frantically trying to restart primary systems, but every console showed the same result: critical system failure. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the humans are hailing us again. Put them through." Captain Martinez appeared on the emergency screen, and this time Drakmor thought he could detect what might have been satisfaction in her expression. "Captain Drakmor, your fleet is now disabled. Your ships are dead in space. Your weapons are offline, and your life support is running on emergency power. You have exactly 1 chance to live through this." "What do you want?" Drakmor asked, his voice hollow with defeat. "First, you're going to order all your crews to abandon ship in escape pods. Second, you're going to transmit your complete database of slave markets, contacts, and previous raids to my ship. Third, you're going to send a message to every Vorthak captain in this sector explaining exactly what happens when humans encounter pirates attacking civilians." "And if I refuse?" Captain Martinez's expression didn't change, but something in her tone made Drakmor's scales crawl with fear. Then we'll leave you here to think about it. Your emergency life support will last about 6 days. The nearest Vorthak base is 18 days away at best speed. Do the math. Watching from his flagship in Federation space, Admiral Zeftar witnessed the destruction of an entire pirate fleet by a single human vessel in less than 15 minutes. The tactical readings made no sense. The weapons technology was unlike anything in Federation databases. The tactical doctrine appeared to be based on principles that violated every assumption about space combat. "Sir," Lieutenant Kevra said quietly, "should we inform High Command about what we just witnessed?" Zeftar considered this carefully. How could he possibly explain that a single ship from a newly contacted species had accomplished what entire Federation task forces had failed to do for decades? "Lieutenant," he said finally, "I want a complete tactical analysis of this engagement, every sensor reading, every weapon signature, every maneuver. And Lieutenant—" "Yes, sir?" "Mark the human homeworld with the highest possible threat assessment. Whatever those creatures evolved from, we need to make very sure they remain our friends." On the colony ship Serenity's Rest, Captain Velana watched through her viewports as escape pods streamed away from the disabled Vorthak fleet. In less than 20 minutes, her certain death had been transformed into complete safety by beings she had never heard of from a world she couldn't even pronounce. "Captain Martinez," she said into her communicator, "how can we possibly thank you?" The human captain's response was immediate and carried a warmth that surprised Velana. "Captain, just get your people safely to their destination. And Captain, welcome to the Federation. We're glad to have you as neighbors." As the UES Harmony moved to escort the colony ship away from the debris field that had once been a Vorthak fleet, Captain Velana realized that the galaxy had just become a very different place. And somewhere in the deep space between stars, the message that Captain Martinez had forced the Vorthak to transmit was already spreading through pirate communication networks. "The humans are here, and they do not negotiate." 3 weeks after the incident at the Outer Rim, the emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council was unlike any in recorded history. Representatives from 47 species packed the Great Hall on Concordia Prime, and the air hummed with nervous energy as beings who rarely agreed on anything found themselves facing a common question that none of them knew how to answer. What exactly were humans? Counselor Prime Thelvac of the Ancient Hegemony called the session to order with the traditional ceremonial gongs, but even the ancient rituals felt inadequate for the unprecedented situation they faced. "Fellow representatives," Thelvac began, his ancient voice carrying across the vast chamber, "we are here to discuss the recent actions of the newly contacted species known as humans, specifically regarding their intervention in the Vorthak pirate incident." A low murmur rippled through the assembly. The official reports had been circulating for days, but many representatives still found them difficult to believe. Ambassador Krexara of the Warrior Caste stood, her 4 arms spread in a gesture of formal address. "Counselor Prime, with respect, perhaps we should first establish the facts. My military advisors refuse to believe that a single vessel could disable 12 heavy cruisers without suffering any damage. Are we certain these reports are accurate?" Admiral Zeftar rose from the military observer section. "Ambassador Krexara, I personally witnessed the engagement from the CNS Crystalline Dawn. I can confirm that every detail in the official report is accurate. The human vessel UES Harmony engaged and defeated the entire Vorthak fleet in 14 minutes and 37 seconds. But how is this possible?" demanded Counselor Vextar of the Scientific Consortium. "Our analysis of their preliminary technology assessments showed them to be centuries behind current Federation standards. Their energy weapons are primitive, their shield technology is virtually non-existent, and their faster-than-light capabilities are barely adequate for inter-system travel." "Which is exactly why none of us saw this coming," replied Dr. Scientist Krillera, the Federation's leading expert on military technology. We evaluated them based on our own technological paradigms. We looked for energy weapons, advanced shields, and sophisticated antimatter propulsion. What we failed to consider was that they might have developed along completely different technological lines. She activated a holographic display that showed the tactical readout from the engagement. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as kinetic projectiles moved at relativistic speeds, bypassing energy shields as if they didn't exist. They call them kinetic kill vehicles, Dr. Krillera explained. Essentially, they're throwing rocks, but they're throwing them at 12% of light speed. The physics are actually quite simple. At those velocities, shields designed to deflect energy weapons become irrelevant. Ambassador Velnoth of the Peaceful Consortium shook his head in confusion. But why would anyone develop weapons like this? Energy weapons are cleaner, more efficient, and far more versatile. Because, came a new voice from the chamber entrance, energy weapons can be blocked. Every head turned as Captain Sarah Martinez entered the chamber, flanked by 2 human ambassadors. She wore what appeared to be a formal military uniform, deep blue with various decorations that meant nothing to the assembled aliens, but somehow conveyed authority nonetheless. Counselor Prime Thelvok gestured for the humans to approach the central speaking platform. Captain Martinez, thank you for joining us. We have many questions about the recent engagement. Captain Martinez nodded respectfully to the assembly. I'm happy to answer what I can, Counselor Prime, though I should mention that I'm here as a military observer, not a diplomat. Captain, Ambassador Krexara interjected, my people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We understand tactics, strategy, and combat doctrine. What I don't understand is how your people developed weapons specifically designed to bypass defensive systems that didn't exist when your species was first contacted. Martinez smiled, and several representatives noted that the expression seemed somehow predatory. Ambassador, that's actually a very insightful question. The answer is that we didn't develop these weapons to fight aliens. We developed them to fight each other. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. You see, Martinez continued, humans have been at war with ourselves for our entire recorded history. Every time someone developed a better defense, someone else developed a better offense. When we invented armor, we invented better arrows. When we invented shields, we invented siege weapons. When we invented energy shields, well, we invented kinetic weapons that could punch through them. Dr. Krillera leaned forward. But surely your species must have eventually achieved peace. Most civilized worlds go through a period of internal conflict before developing space travel, but that period typically ends once they achieve unity. Peace? Martinez laughed, though the sound carried no humor. Ambassador, we achieved spaceflight while we were in the middle of something we called the Cold War. 2 of our major nation-states built enough nuclear weapons to sterilize our entire planet 3 times over, and we kept building them anyway. We've never known true peace. Counselor Vexatar made a sound of dismay. How did your species survive long enough to reach the stars? We got very good at controlled violence, Martinez replied matter-of-factly. We learned to fight wars without ending civilization. We learned to make conflict productive rather than destructive. Every human military innovation was tested against other humans first. By the time we met alien technology, we'd already figured out how to counter it. Ambassador Krexara's warrior instincts were fully aroused. Captain, you mentioned that this was just one ship. What would happen if humans deployed a full fleet? Martinez exchanged glances with her diplomatic escorts before answering. Ambassador, the UES Harmony is what we classify as a light patrol vessel. She carries a minimal weapon loadout for her size class. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives stood and began talking at once, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping conversations. Counselor Prime Thelvok had to sound the ceremonial gongs 3 times to restore order. Captain Martinez, he said carefully, are you saying that the vessel that destroyed an entire Vorthak fleet was not even a frontline warship? That's correct, Counselor Prime. The Harmony is designed for patrol and escort duties. Her primary mission is diplomatic protection and merchant convoy security. Dr. Krillara's scientific mind raced through the implications. If that was a light patrol vessel, Captain, what would you classify as a heavy warship? Martinez paused, considering her response. Well, our current heavy battle cruisers carry approximately 400 kinetic launch tubes, tactical nuclear capabilities, and what we call planetary pacification systems, but we haven't had to deploy anything that large in recent decades. Planetary pacification systems? Counselor Vexatar asked weakly. Weapons designed to disable a planet's military capabilities from orbit while minimizing civilian casualties, Martinez explained. We developed them during our colonial expansion period when we had to deal with aggressive alien wildlife and hostile environments. We never thought we'd need them against other spacefaring species. Ambassador Krexara stood slowly, her forearms trembling slightly. Captain Martinez, I need to ask you something directly. How many warships does humanity possess? Martinez consulted a small device attached to her wrist. Current active fleet strength is approximately 1,200 vessels across all classes. That includes everything from patrol boats like the Harmony up to our planet-class dreadnoughts. We're also maintaining a reserve fleet of about 800 older vessels, but most of those date back to our pre-contact period. The chamber fell silent. 2,000 human warships. The entire Federation Navy consisted of fewer than 800 vessels spread across 47 member worlds. Counselor Prime Thelvac struggled to process the information. Captain, you said your people have never known peace. Are you currently at war? No, Counselor Prime. We're currently in what we call a state of readiness. We're not actively fighting anyone, but we maintain our military capabilities because our history has taught us that peace is usually temporary. And what would it take for your people to go to war? Martinez's expression hardened. The same thing that brought us to help the Serenity's rest. Someone threatening innocence. We have a saying, never again. It means we will never again allow evil to triumph while good people do nothing. From his position in the military observer section, Admiral Zeftar felt a chill run through his crystalline structure. He thought about the centuries of Vorthak raids, the thousands of civilians killed or enslaved, and the Federation's inability to stop them. Captain, he called out, what is humanity's position on piracy in Federation space? Martinez turned to face him directly. Admiral, our position is simple. Pirates are vermin. They prey on the innocent, they spread suffering, and they make peaceful commerce impossible. They need to be exterminated. And if the Federation Council were to request human assistance in dealing with the pirate problem? Martinez smiled again, and this time every representative in the chamber recognized the expression for what it was, the smile of a predator sensing wounded prey. Admiral, we would be happy to help. Hunting pirates is what we call a training exercise for our crews. Good practice without significant risk. From the diplomatic section, Ambassador Jelnara of the Trade Consortium stood nervously. Captain Martinez, surely humans wouldn't simply kill all the pirates. Perhaps they could be reformed, educated, shown a better path. The human captain's smile faded, replaced by an expression of cold iron. Ambassador, 3 weeks ago I watched Vorthak pirates give a colony ship captain a choice between 50 dead civilians or 100 dead civilians. These weren't beings who could be reasoned with or reformed. They were predators who understood only strength. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. My people learned a long time ago that the only language bullies understand is overwhelming force. We tried negotiation, we tried sanctions, we tried appeasement. None of it worked. What worked was making bullying so expensive that it became unprofitable. Counselor Prime Thelvok made a decision that would reshape galactic politics for the next 1,000 years. "Captain Martinez," he said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Federation Council, I would like to extend an invitation for humanity to participate in a joint task force to address the piracy problem in Federation space. I'll need to consult with Earth Command, but I believe they would be very interested in such a partnership." As the session concluded and representatives filed out in small groups, hushed conversations filled the corridors of the Federation Council building. Ambassador Krexara found herself walking beside Admiral Zeftar. "Admiral," she said quietly, "what have we done?" "I'm not sure," Zeftar replied, his voice thoughtful. "But I'll tell you one thing. For the first time in 50 years, I'm not worried about pirates attacking Federation civilians. Because the humans will protect us? No, Ambassador. Because the humans will make piracy extinct." In the weeks that followed, word of the Federation's new alliance with humanity spread throughout the galaxy. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to pirate activity were reopened. Merchant captains who had lived in fear for decades began planning longer voyages to more distant markets, and in the hidden bases and secret stations where pirates gathered, a new phrase began appearing on communication networks with increasing frequency: "Avoid human space. Do not engage human vessels. Do not harm ships under human protection. The Deathworlders do not negotiate." The galaxy had gotten its first taste of human justice, and for those who preyed on the innocent, it was a bitter lesson in why some worlds earned the designation Death World, not because they were hard to survive on, but because they produced beings that nothing else in the galaxy could survive against. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same. Captain Sarah Martinez returned to Earth 3 months later to find herself promoted to Admiral and placed in command of the new Galactic Anti-Piracy Task Force. Her first official act was to commission 50 new ships specifically designed for anti-pirate operations. Her second act was to send a message to every known pirate base in Federation space. It consisted of 2 words: "Surrender now." Most of them did.